Why do RBCs swell in hypotonic solution and shrink in hypertonic solution? Okay, let's take an example here. Let's say that this is an RBC, okay, and all cells, including the RBC, have some quantity of water inside them, okay. And these red particles right here, they are solutes, okay. They whatever chemicals they may be, the compounds inside the RBC, and they are giving it a particular concentration, okay. Let's say that is an RBC, and let's say that the solution that it is kept inside, let's say this is the solution, okay. This has less solute molecules in a bigger volume, okay. So you can see that the RBC is clearly way more concentrated as compared to the solution in which it is kept, right? So what this means is we can say that the solution is hypotonic. Now the thing is isotonic. It basically means that the concentration of both of the solutions that are kept side by side are equal. Okay, that is what isotonic means. Now hypotonic, what that means is hypo is less, which means that this solution right here, this solution that I've drawn in blue, is less concentrated as compared to the RBC in which is present inside it. Now, why would it swell upon keeping in hypotonic solution? One thing that we have to remember is that this membrane, the membrane of the RBC, is permeable to solvents, but it is not permeable to solute particles. Okay, so ideally, let's say this entire membrane that I've shown you here, let's say it was permeable to solute particles. In order to make this entire thing isotonic, what would happen is that these particles, they would just diffuse out, right? And eventually make both the solution and the RBC isotonic, which means of the same concentration, okay? That would be the case. But in this case, as we have said, solute particles cannot pass through this membrane, and solvents can, which means there is a way for this entire system to maintain its isotonicity, and that is by transfer of the solvent. So let's say this is the solvent inside the solution, the hypotonic solution, okay, which and of course there is way more solvent inside this as compared to the RBC, because this is isotonic solution, right? So what will start happening is that if the solute particles cannot diffuse out, the solvent will start making a move in the opposite direction. Okay, so the solute will start entering the RBC instead of the solute particles, or the solvent will start entering the RBC in contrast to the solute particles that would move out of the RBC if the membrane was permeable. So what you will see eventually is that the number of solute particles will remain the exact same. Let's say the same number of solute particles remain here because there is no permeability for solute particles. But what will happen is that the solvent will increase inside the RBC, okay, way more as compared to the solution outside it. Now, if this happens, what we will see is that since there is a lot of solvent inside the RBC, what we will end up seeing is that this RBC that was a normal size, it will swell up, Okay, just like raisins swell up when kept in water, it will swell up in order to accommodate all of this solvent inside it. And of course, the solute particle quantity remains the same. Okay, so that is why RBCs will swell in hypotonic solutions. It is to maintain the isotonicity where the membrane is not permeable to solute particles, but it is permeable to solvents. Okay, now if you have understood that, it is quite easy to understand why they shrink in hypertonic solutions. Okay, so let's say this is the case. This is the hypertonic solution. And this is the same old RBC that we had with a particular amount of solvent in it. But this solution has a lot more solute particles as compared to the solution we had before, which is why it is what we call hypertonic solution. Hypertonic solution. Now, obviously, this will also have solute or solvent inside of it. Okay, but the solute particles are way more in proportion, which is why it's hypertonic. Now, again, as we have said, this membrane that we have shown here, this membrane, it is not permeable to the solute particles. Otherwise, these solute particles would just enter inside because of the concentration difference between the solution and the RBC. But since it is not permeable, that would not happen. But it is permeable to the solvent, right? So what will start happening is that the solvent inside the RBC will start diffusing out. Okay. Or rather, I wouldn't call it diffusion. This is osmosis basically. Because osmosis is when the solvent moves through a semi-permeable membrane. So the complete opposite of what happened here, we are seeing that the solvent is getting out of the RBC and entering the solution. Now the RBC has less solvent to handle. So what it will do is it will end up shrinking instead of swelling like we saw in the last case. So this is how it will become eventually. The number of solute particles will remain the same inside, but the solvent has decreased manifold. And the solvent outside is in a massive quantity now, and the solute particles are in the same quantity again. Okay, so that is why RBCs start shrinking in hypertonic solutions. Hypertonic, they shrink. And in hypotonic, they swell. Okay, so that was the video. Thank you for watching.